It is match week number 2 in the Premier League season. I'm Adam Gold. Thanks for hanging out. After Dark, that's Jai Kumar. Again, I'll probably say this for the first few weeks. The reason I've become an annoying soccer fan. Not that he's an annoying soccer fan, because he's not. I know I am to a lot of people, and I'm okay with it. I am absolutely okay with being an annoying soccer fan. All right, so let's get right to all of this.
Let's do it.
Let's just start here. Let's start with some impressions. What are your big takeaways from week 1?
City are good.
Yeah, well, that was the first thing I wrote down too. Yes.
Yeah. I think City are good, and I think United are not.
Ooh.
They were very, very lucky to escape with a 1-0 this week. And maybe it's early, they'll get going, but it does not seem like they are ready to start the season. They may get into shape, but this is a league that there's so much competition. You can't afford to not start fast. Because if you start dropping points, they won, so they're fine. And as long as they keep winning, they'll be okay to figure it out. The best thing, I think, for an early season team is win ugly, so you can win but learn from it. But they didn't look too sharp. And then, it's going to be. I think it'll be a fun season. Newcastle impressed me a little bit too, which I was surprised at how sharp they looked to get off.
They looked great. Alexander Isak looked awesome. I actually think that's probably the most deceiving scoreline of the entire week, because I thought Villa was good, but that game just got away from them late. And maybe, it's just one of those things where you're pushing to try to get an equalizer, and they were actually down 2 when they made it 3-1. Again, that was kind of late. So I'm not blown away by the score. People would think that's a blowout. I thought that was a very, very entertaining match by two teams that I think are going to be really good. I didn't have Newcastle finishing in European position, but they could just as easily be in Champions League position. They're not as deep, but look, they didn't start Callum Wilson, so they have some depth. And I'm sure that there are Tonali was awesome for them. He scored so quickly, but they are a very good team and incredibly well coached. So two of the matches that really stuck with me, you mentioned already, but for the second one, for a different reason. City is City. I mean, although, and we'll get to it in our next topic, Kevin De Bruyne going off 20 minutes in is going to prove to be a major challenge. It will test their depth. But we know that City's got 2 weeks left in the window. They will probably add 7 or 8 players if they need to. So City is great.
Unplug and re-plug in the transfer window. I think it's broken.
Oh, man. My second takeaway, even though it was a 1-1 draw, Chelsea's good. They are talented. And they didn't have Christopher Nkunku because of the injury. And they just added Moises Caicedo to play holding mid, and they can move Enzo up. And they also added Romeo Lavia, who apparently nobody wants to sign with Liverpool. And so now they added 2 different types of players. But 2 very good defensive mids, and they're both very young, combined age of 40. They basically combined to be almost a James Milner. So, I mean, good work. I mean, I made a list of all the players Chelsea has added really in the last calendar year, and it's an entire roster. It's an entire squad of ads. I don't get financial fair play, and I am not one to complain about it. I just don't. I thought there were rules against signing players every 5 days.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Pochettino's a good manager. They've got good talent, but this is also, frankly, a bit of a gamble. This isn't smart if it was, all of the teams with money would be doing it. And
Right.
there's a reason teams don't do this, because you can try it and you can gamble. And if these hit, great. It'll work out. And it's a volume play. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't, there's a lot of dead weight. And they've got to get into Europe in the next year, really this season. If they don't, then this is going to be a very, very expensive mistake. And then if they get into the Champions League in the next 3 years, all of these players are weighted over the next 5 years. And that's the loophole right now. They can pay for players because the Premier League amortizes their value over the lifespan of the contract. So they're signing 8-9 year deals. It's spread out. It doesn't look as big on the books. So they're able to circumvent some of the FFP rules because they're not in Europe. If they get into Europe, UEFA and the Champions League, it's a 5-year window. So those 8-year contracts don't mean anything. And so they're betting on making it in the next 2 years into Europe. And then they get a fresh start, and then it'll be, they'll be in year 3 of the 5-year window and they'll be okay. But it's a huge risk, because if they don't get in, all of a sudden you've got these players on these huge wages, contracts, and it's going to be hard to move them because you've got young players who were unable to get you over the hump.
Right. I think, first of all, my understanding of financial fair play is trumped only by my understanding of the NFL salary cap. I have no concept of what it is. I don't understand the accounting. I just know that Chelsea signs a player every day. And, entertaining if you're a Chelsea fan, hysterical if they keep doing this and miss out on Europe. But as I said in our first episode of this, I actually don't think they're going to miss out on Europe. I think they're really good. And my other takeaway was, yes, you were right. Wolves were better at Old Trafford than Manchester United. Wolves should have won the match, but they also should have drawn the match, because I do not know how you can go to VAR and not have a penalty on Andre Onana. I mean, he clubbed. Was it 2 guys? He clubbed.
Yeah.
He just clubbed. He missed the ball, and honestly didn't seem to care that he was about to club at least one, maybe both players from Wolves. I don't know how you go to VAR, and that's not a penalty. And I know whatever the acronym of the outfit that runs the refereeing for the FA, they walked into the Wolves dressing room after the match and apologized to everybody. It's like, nope, we blew it. That should have been a penalty. Now, maybe Onana saves it anyway, but my gosh, that was bad.
It was tough. And part of it is goalkeepers are refereed differently. They just are.
Right.
They get away with a lot more physical contact, pushing. It still should have been a penalty, but I do think there's that. It's also at Old Trafford. You're just not going to get that call there. I'm sorry. It's been 20 some odd years, and I've never seen a tight call like that go against United at Old Trafford. They'll get calls against them, but not at home. And so, you've got a lot of those factors kind of coming together. And then, the PGMOL is a joke. I mean, last year, that's the refereeing body. Yeah. Last year, there was a match where they did the same thing. It was a VAR decision where a player was offsides, and it cost Arsenal 3 points. It cost them the win. They ended up drawing the game. The ref forgot to draw the lines. He just didn't draw the lines. And so he was banned. He was banned, and he was removed.
We have this.
And guess who was reinstated and on VAR this week?
Oh, really?
That same ref, and now he's banned again. And he has been removed. And so that is the level of competence we are dealing with. The PGMOL make Mark Emmert seem like he's doing a good job.
Wow, that's fighting words right there. Look, I couldn't understand why that was not. But and you're right about United. We're going to see Rasmus Højlund. He will eventually get healthy and probably come into the lineup, but they have to add more. They need a striker, and it leads me to, this is really going to be number 3, but we might as well do it now.
Yeah,
looks like Mason Greenwood is coming back. And from a pure football perspective, that's a good ad if you are Manchester United, because
Maybe.
I mean he was basically a goal every fourth match as a player. He hasn't played in a while, but of course the reason he hasn't played in a while is because he, was credibly accused of sexual assault and rape.
And I think it's despicable, but let's not. I personally have talked to many United fans that are appalled the club is taking this decision. There's plenty. It's easy to get on the internet trolls. I think Greenwood is an easy case to point at of how broken the system is, but he's not unique. No. We've got cases of footballers having raped, sexual assault accusations across the league. There's a player on Arsenal that it looks like he's going to get off on some technicalities. I don't want him there. There was Benjamin Mendy at City. He was released, but there was evidence there. There's Gylfi Sigurdsson, who is at Tottenham. Every club you can look at it and you can probably find a case. And so the Greenwood situation is horrible, but it just shows that at the end of the day, the reason I think I shared with you, but the reason he's coming back is not because he deserves a spot on that roster. It's that someone else is going to sign him, and United don't want to look stupid. And
that's what happens in all sports.
Every sport. We have Greg Hardy as an example getting picked up by the Cowboys within a couple weeks. It's not unique to soccer in any way, but this is the most overt case where we had video evidence that was the whole world saw, and trying to walk it back is pretty tough. And at the end of the day, I also think I haven't. United are the ones that have seen him. He is an incredible talent. He was an incredible talent, but at that age, the development curve is so steep that missing 2 years or a year and a half of Premier League level soccer, that's a huge setback for a player that young, because you see players who are 19 and how good they get by 22. And then you see players who are good at 21 and by 24, they're faded off. For every Bukayo Saka, there's a Theo Walcott. And so for Greenwood, if he's that good, maybe he can come back and be at a level, but we don't know. And that much time off, is it worth a roster spot when you are really taking a bet on a person who does he add enough value back to your squad to warrant a place on top of the potential commercial impact?
Well, Nike pulled a sponsorship of him right away when all this happened. I think the thing I liked the least about this whole situation, and to be fair, Greenwood is very young.
Yeah.
And we don't know what he has done since the incident, I will say, or incidents. Because the video doesn't look, it's all fresh. Some of it looked fresher than others. So, but we don't know what he has done to remedy himself in that period of time. So I don't want to be, I'm never going to be one to say this person could never do this. He has obviously been out for a substantial period of time. So I don't know, as a young guy, maybe he has come to grips with a problem. Maybe he's sought help. I assume he has. And I
hope
believe,
so. Just for him as a person, I hope he has.
The woman, his girlfriend, they have a child together now.
Yeah, they're back together. So, there's a lot of life is messy. I'm just from a purely commercial footballing club identity standards, I do think, he shouldn't be banned from working ever again, or, there is a court of public opinion, and then there's court, and you deal with the consequences. We have a system and a judicial system that'll handle those things. But in a public space, there are, in my opinion, things that you are accountable to and accountable for, that I think that, you may be able to go back and be an accountant, but as a club, you're sending a signal to a lot of other kids to a lot of other things, what's okay and what's not. I think we have a responsibility to just be a little bit better.
And I mean, I think you and I would probably feel the same way about this. I would release him. I wouldn't want him part of my club. But
we've got a player on Arsenal who's playing weekly that I do not want on the team. And he's starting, and he's an integral part of how good we are. But to me, it's not something I enjoy watching every week, even if I can somehow disassociate my support from my club to my support for that player.
Chiefs fans had Tyreek Hill. Now he's a Dolphin. Bengals fans have Joe Mixon. We all saw the video of Mixon just slugging his girlfriend when he was at Oklahoma in that little, I guess, diner, cafe, or whatever. All right, let's move on to some injuries and how impactful. Kevin De Bruyne, a hamstring injury, out 4 months. Your guy, Jurrien Timber. Well, I mean, it was a great signing. We all loved the signing because he's so versatile. He can play outside. He can play inside on the back line. And he's torn ACL. I assume he's out for the year. They never say that. But I can't imagine him coming back. Tyrone Mings, that's a huge loss in central defense for Aston Villa. And I know we're not talking about other leagues, but how about Real Madrid losing Eder Militao and Thibaut Courtois within span of 4 days, 5 days to torn ACLs?
And not to mention Emi Buendia is also out. And so I think this is a product of overuse. If you look, most of these players played in the World Cup, and I was telling some folks the other day, and one of my Arsenal groups was talking to them about, we're going to see the effects of the World Cup this year because they had a shorter summer. The season went a week longer, and they got no break. And now you're seeing they had the summer before last summer, they had World Cup qualifying, so they had big matches, and you're seeing it, and it's the same subset of elite players that play in all of these big games. They play in club, then they are the starters for their national team, then they play in the Champions League, then they play on the tour because they're expected in front of 80,000, and the tours are getting more intense because when you get on the pitch and there's 80,000 people, it doesn't really matter. And you see Barcelona in front of you, it doesn't really matter that it's summer friendly. You end up playing. And so all of these things are adding up. And you look next year, you got the Euros, you got the World Cup, like it's not stopping. Yep. And so at some point maybe that's what Chelsea are kind of doing. They're getting 3 squads, they can rotate and do load management. I don't know.
Yeah, and they have 3 good squads. But yeah, the injuries are mad. I mean, look, I really do. Having watched that entire match on Sunday and having seen them, I was at the match against Wrexham, and some of those players featured in that match. There were they have so many players who can be first team in their normal squad. But there were a number of those players, and some of the players that we saw, they're going to send out on loan because they just don't have room for everybody. And they did also sign a lot of very, very young players as well. So on the other end of that is Liverpool's new defensive midfielder, Wataru Endo, a 30-year-old from Stuttgart. He's not from Stuttgart, but he's been playing at Stuttgart. And I guess we haven't heard the "here we go" yet officially from Fabrizio, but he had the medicals. I think were today, but it should be a done deal. I don't think he'll feature against Bournemouth, but they needed somebody to be a defensive midfielder, so Alexis McAllister didn't have to do it. And now Cody Gakpo can go back to where he's most comfortable, which is on the forward line, whether it's on the left or at center. So they weaken too many positions to have somebody who's not a defensive midfielder play the 6.
Yeah, no, I think he's great. I think this is a smart move. Klopp obviously knows him from his time in Germany. He was at Dortmund, and he's really good. Like he's an underrated player. It reminds me honestly of Jorginho coming to Arsenal in January. I think there's a lot of similarities there where we had a first choice in Declan Rice and we said we can't get him, so we need to get somebody. We need to get some level of cover and we need something of quality. And we were able to do that deal. And then it didn't preclude us from doing what we needed to do in the summer and getting that choice A player. So, you still have January, you still have next summer for Liverpool. I think he's good. I think he's one of the better midfielders in the Bundesliga. I think he's going to be able to come in and start from day one. He's not going to have a huge learning curve. He was the captain at Stuttgart. Yeah. And so, he has that ability to provide some leadership in a position that even if you're not wearing the armband, you're thought of as a quarterback in a lot of ways. And so if he can get the play set and really create that space that Liverpool likes to do, where they've got their midfield really doing the dirty work so the attackers can really pressure and force the issue on the top end of the pitch, then I think he can provide that and be a very useful player for you. And then in January you can go again, or if you've got some youth players that can bet in the FA Cup or in the Carling Cup, you can see them grow and then have some rotation heading into next year.
Well, I think what they really want, they didn't want to block being able to use Stefan Bajcetic. And they loved what they saw from him in a short sample size last year until his season ended. I guess it was like in early March due to injury. But that's what he is. He's a defensive midfielder. And so that gives them two. I think in January they'll try to get one of their targets that they ultimately opted not to sign or couldn't sign. I mean, I know they thought highly enough of Lavia to keep trying to inch up towards 50, and I don't know about the Caicedo thing. I thought they thought, well, Chelsea's dragging their feet, so let's see if we can steal him, and that just made them look bad, and they were flat out used by Caicedo's agent and Brighton, by the way, to drive the price up, because it went suddenly from like 85 or 90, which is what Chelsea could have gotten him for, to now, because they didn't get anywhere close to that number, to 115. So, look, good on. He's a great player. Caicedo is a dynamite player, and Liverpool would have been thrilled to have him. But I don't know, 115 million for a defensive midfielder might be a little steep. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. But
the other place to look at too is the Brazilian league. Their season runs similar timing to the South America in general to the North American league. So in January, they'll actually have a lot more movement where you may be able to find some good talent there, because I do think there's some solid players from that league that have been able to make the step into the Premier League pretty quickly with very minimal fuss. So
Andre from Luminense, I think, is somebody that they were targeting, but he's playing in they're in the second leg of some quarterfinal, whatever their cup. I don't know. It's a second leg, and that match, if they lose that, they're out. And at that point, Liverpool might try to grab him, but that match is the day before the window ends. So I think they're more likely thinking about him probably for January. The other thing, I thought they were going to go after Czech Torre, but when you bid 115 million, 110 million pounds for Moises Caicedo, somebody who was worth probably 40 million pounds suddenly is worth 60 million to other teams in the Premier League. Yeah. So that's probably why they're not doing that right now. But I mean, they'll get another defensive mid. They have to. Unless Thiago is going to play that when he comes back. That's not really his role anyway. At some point, they're both training. Thiago and Bajcetic are both training right now in full team training. So at some point soon, they're going to come back. Has Tyler Adams showed up at Bournemouth yet?
We got the here we go. So I think he's headed that way. So it'll be good. I think that's a better move for him, honestly. So he'll get.
I wanted Tyler Adams.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's ready or not.
No, but I think he'll do a good job Bournemouth, and it'll be a solid pickup for them. Help them through the season a little bit.
Should we make picks, sir?
We should. Let's do that. But first, let me hear you going into the week. Vibe check. Who's got the best vibes?
Best vibes. Well, I mean, it's easy to say City, right? because of the way they played. But I mean, I think you mentioned it. Newcastle was awfully, awfully good. And that was one of the highlight matches of the week. The two highlight matches were that one and Chelsea-Liverpool. Liverpool probably had the most difficult fixture among the big clubs.
Sure, of course.
In week one, but that's fine. I'm not complaining about it. And they were lucky to get a point. But Newcastle was rock solid, all over the place. And so if you're a Magpie, I think you're probably feeling pretty good about your squad, because every podcast preview that I listened to said the exact same thing about Newcastle. I was already there. Yeah, that was great last year, but how much of it was built on that 18-match unbeaten streak where they just kept banking points because they weren't as good, probably, I would say, for like March and April, they weren't as good, but they won the key matches that they had to in May to close it out. But man, they were awfully good. So that, to me, if the best vibe check was that, the worst vibe check, even though they won, I think you're right. Man, you did not look awesome.
Yeah, I think it was tough. I agree with you. Worst vibes going into the week, probably United, even though they got 3 points. I just think that's tough at home against a team that people picked that low. And the best vibes for me, Brighton, man, they got 115 million and 3 points. Like, they're flushed with cash. Like, and they didn't even and they've already signed a replacement that's for 20 million. It's incredible. They are so well run. It's awesome. It's awesome to see.
Yep, and De Zerbi's a fun manager. All right, before we do this, I'm holding this up. I have no idea if anybody can see that. I need to figure out a way to build graphics. So what it said, we were all 7-3. It says Jack not pictured.
Yeah.
Jack was also 7-3. The difference in the week was that our Big Six matches, any matches involving two clubs from the Big Six, are doubled. We all differently. I had the Chelsea-Liverpool draw. You had Chelsea winning, which they deserved to win. Jack had Liverpool winning. They did not deserve to win, but it ended up a draw. So I got plus 510 because the draw was plus 255. So that's the total difference between the standings here. I'm at 1150. You're at 630, and Jack is at 470. But all plus money, all 7-3. We're very good at this already.
That's a good week.
No question about it. All right. I'll throw the first game to you. Forest will host Sheffield United. That is our game for those people watching this on Friday. That's our game today, or tonight, tomorrow, whatever it is, Friday. Forest and Sheffield. Who you got?
So having seen Forest in the flesh, I was actually pretty impressed with how they responded. It was kind of one of those weird games where Arsenal were cruising. I mean, that was a bag to 3 points, get out of Dodge. Yep. Then Timber goes down, everything kind of goes flat. They get a weird goal on the counter, and then it was just kind of like holding on because you let too much off your foot off the pedal. But I still like them over Sheffield at home, minus 110. I'll take Forest.
All right. My son also has Forest. This is the first. I mean, this is a legit relegation special. Both of these clubs are going to be down near the bottom of the table. And I think Sheffield, who I was sneaky impressed by in terms of their athleticism. But so I'll take Sheffield. I'm sorry. I have this as a draw Friday. What's better than a draw on a Friday? Liverpool, Bournemouth. I do not believe Endo will be in the team. Liverpool is minus 180 to win. Bournemouth plus 1100. That is, I mean, that'd be worth it just for the heck of it.
Yeah, I don't see Liverpool losing at Anfield. I'm sorry.
Well, and probably not to Bournemouth.
No,
I mean, they'll probably lose a couple at Anfield during the year. But yes, I think we're all Liverpool across the board. All right, this is a good one. The a West London derby, Fulham at Craven Cottage and Brentford. Who you got?
I've got the Bees. I think that they set up really well. I like the way they looked against Tottenham. I think they've got just a little bit more of a well-rounded squad than Fulham do. But I think Fulham are good. I mean, I could be wrong, but I still am taking Brentford plus 170 away at Craven Cottage.
I am also on Brentford. Jack, my 14-year-old nut, he had Fulham in European spot. He had him 7th.
Yeah.
So actually, in retrospect, they might have bumped out. I'm not sure. I have to go look at it because he had forgotten that Arsenal was apparently in the league. He put Arsenal back second. I said, do you realize that you don't have Arsenal anywhere in your top 7? He goes, oh, no. Oh, they're behind City. So I'm not sure if Fulham is still 7th, but he had Fulham there originally. But he's got Fulham at home. It's only a matter of moments, right, before Alexander Mitrovic ends up in the Saudi Pro League. By the way, I got to find out if Roberto Firmino scored a goal the other day. Yesterday. I don't think he did. I love Bobby Firmino. It made my heart sing to know that he had a hat trick in his last match, but I don't know that he scored in yesterday's match. All right, I also have Brentford. All right, Brighton is at Wolves. Wolves plus 350 at home. Brighton is minus money on the road. A draw is plus 290. Who you got?
So first off, Gary O'Neill is a good manager.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Wolves shrewdly picked him up, and I think he'll do. He had him looking feisty against United, so I think they'll be a tough out. I think they we'll see how it goes over the course of the season, but that was one that kind of fell in their lap a little bit, and they look like a team that can score even if they didn't. But vibes, man, it's got to be Brighton. I think away, they are building something, I think, that can withstand the tests that they'll face this year, especially when they get into Europe. I think they've got all the right pieces. I like Brighton away at Wolves.
I like Brighton too, and I don't understand how you can lose McAllister and Caicedo and still be good. I just don't get that.
Well, I mean, they've turned over almost their whole team. I mean, they've gotten rid of Mupe, Basuma, McAllister, Cucurella, Ben White. Yeah. The goalie went to Chelsea, I believe.
Sanchez
went to Chelsea. I mean, it's incredible, and they just keep finding somebody else, and it's like, oh yeah, we will just bring this 18-year-old Scottish kid on, and he'll be a stud, and we'll just bring this random player in. It's amazing.
And I put Ferguson on my fantasy team, and he didn't even start. He did come on and score, but he didn't even start. So I didn't get. I get only 1 point because he played, but I don't get 2 points if he plays. I think it's either 65 or 70 minutes. All right, our Big Six matchup of the week, and I hope we get some weeks where we have 2 or 3 of these, but we have one. At Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, it's Tottenham and Man U. Tottenham is plus 200, Man U plus 130 on the road, plus 255 for a draw. What say you, Jay?
I like Spurs in this one. I think I don't think they looked great in their opener, but I don't think United are fully up and running. It seems like I don't know what's going on with Casemiro, but it kind of gives me, if you remember Ronaldinho back in the day, and it's he like whenever he stops playing, he liked to party. He liked to have getting his cups, as the kids say, right. And it would take him like 3 or 4 games to get back match ready, right. And Casemiro just doesn't look like he's fit, and without him going, they do not have the balance to give their attacking players the platform they need. there's just giant holes in that midfield, and people can slice right through them. I mean, there was a play where Cunha for Wolves took the ball from his own box and just dribbled straight line down the middle of the field, and ran out of gas where I thought he should have laid it off to Neto, but he just nobody even took a step at him. And so I think that that first home game for Tottenham with the crowd behind him, I think they'll pull this one out.
I'll tell you what impressed me about Tottenham was just how they were actually enjoyable to watch. We've been watching them for my fandom only goes back like a year and a half. But they have
been. You got to see 3 managers.
No, I started. Conte was there when I started being a fan.
Oh, so you missed Nuno and Mourinho.
Whoever was before Conte, I don't know.
Okay.
But you couldn't watch them. It's an unwatchable team. But they were fun, and they played more attacking style football. It was a lot more fun. They didn't just sit back and go into a shell and then we have Harry Kane, so he'll score. And now they don't have Harry Kane anymore. But
Ewing theory.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Maybe. But look, I don't think Kane held them back. I think their style probably held them back. And like last year, Son was just awful all year. I anticipate he'll be better.
Hernia.
Oh, all year?
Yeah, it came out recently that he played a majority of last year with a sports hernia, which explains a whole lot. And so hopefully that's fully healed up and he's playing. He'll be better this year. But that was some news that was news to me. And so would explain it. I haven't seen that reported anywhere. I've just kind of seen it floating around.
I haven't seen it at all.
But
wish I had known when I had him on my team for like 6 weeks.
Yeah. I have a close friend who's a Tottenham fan who was telling me, and I was like, "Where's your source?" He's like, "Just trust me." And I was like, "All right, I'll put it on the radio."
Oh, then I don't believe it. But they get goals from Romero and Emerson Royale out of the midfield, so they didn't even need Richarlison, who may be good. Who knows if Richarlison's going to be anything in the Premier League? But they still have some pretty good talent. I also have Tottenham. My son he is a United fan. So he's got Man U in that one. That is our double pointer. All right, City and Newcastle. Man, I cannot wait to watch this one at the Etihad. City is minus 165. Newcastle is plus 425 on the road. The first match without De Bruyne. So no De Bruyne. We know Gundogan has been gone, but I can't imagine in a Premier League game that City is running a midfield out there that doesn't have both De Bruyne and Ilkay Gundogan.
Yeah. No, I think they'll be fine, though. I still like City to pull this one out. I think with the way that, they still have Rodri, they still have John Stones who can step into midfield. Kovacic seems to have proven a good signing, and they still have Phil Foden. I mean, they're not lacking for talent. And then, up top, you have the machine Terminator up there,
the striking Viking.
Yeah. So it's a tough proposition. I think Newcastle will give them a good fight. If this was at St. James Park, I think you might have a different story here. But I just think at the Etihad, it's just going to be a little bit too much for Newcastle. So I'll take City at home minus 165.
Yeah. I agree. I have City as well. Jack has Newcastle in this one. All right, Villa and Everton. Villa at home minus 155. Everton plus 400. A draw is plus 300. What do you got?
I've got a draw here. I think that Villa didn't look terrible, and I think they'll be okay. Fun fact: in the Newcastle game, they is the fastest goals scored back to back by 2 debutants in the Premier League history.
Oh, really?
So Diaby and then Tonali, 6th and 11th minutes, fastest goal scored for each club. But I still think Emery does a good job tactically setting his team up to play other teams, but unfortunately he does that at the expense of his own team. And so I think if you're always adjusting to what the other team is going to put out there, you don't give them a chance to adjust to you. And so I think that's why Everton will find some spaces. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a pretty boring 0-0 draw.
Yeah, and no Tyrone Mings. So,
Yeah.
I mean, even if Villa does get one, there's going to be a hole in central defense. And I don't know if do we know if Calvert-Lewin is playing? Because
I don't know if he's back yet, but yeah, who knows? I think this will be a weird game.
Another guy on my fantasy team who doesn't want to play. I had like 6 guys injured. I had 3 guys who didn't get a point in week 1, and I'm very excited about that. I have I have Villa in that. Jack has Villa. You have a draw. All right, West Ham and Chelsea, and this is another London derby. But it's not. It's kind of East London, West London here. All right. West Ham plus 290 at home. Chelsea is minus money on the road, plus 260 for a draw. What do you got?
I got Chelsea in this one. I think West Ham are still trying to figure out, how to fit all these pieces together without Rice. I think they just had a couple signings come in the last week or two, so they'll be all right. They'll be a good, solid mid-table team, but when it's all said and done. But I like the way Chelsea looked yesterday or last week. I think they carry it on and get the 3 points this week at the Olympic Stadium.
How does Harry Maguire not want to go there? Why do you want to be the 5th central defender on United? I mean, you'd go to West Ham. I don't know. I mean, what West Ham isn't going to pay him?
I don't know if they want to pay his wages. I mean, I think he's on 300 or something a week.
It might be.
And so, I mean, listen, get your money. I'm not going to fault anybody for sitting on the bench if you can collect $300,000 a week.
And Ten Hag's mad. Ten Hag was hoping to sell him.
Yeah. I get it. Well, and also, frankly, United turned down $60 million for Maguire and McTominay, trying to get more money. So that's hubris.
Yep.
That is that, and so now you're stuck. So
they are
enjoy.
Stuck. They are stuck.
So
yep. I actually I have that as a draw though. As much as I like Chelsea, they had plenty of opportunities to score. Tons of opportunities to score on Liverpool. Now, Alisson, this just in, pretty good.
Yeah.
He was maybe. I mean, it might be. I mean, he was man of the match. Absolutely at Stamford Bridge. But so I'm on a hunch. I have this as a draw. I still think the world of Chelsea's roster, even though I despise Chelsea like you can't believe. All right. The last one I think is an easy one. Crystal Palace. Although, shouts to Michael Olise for saying, you know what? I'm not going to Chelsea like everybody else. I'm going to stay here at Palace and see if we can see this thing through. So what is this? This is another London derby. We got all sorts of London derbies. We got 3 of them this week. Palace at home against Arsenal. I know who you got.
You do, but I don't think it's going to be as straightforward as people may expect. I think Palace away is a tough fixture. I think that's a tough place to go play. Historically, it's been a bit of a mixed bag when Arsenal played away at Palace. We don't really know how they're going to line up, Arsenal, just in terms of their back line. Feels like, going into the season, we felt really good about our defensive depth. But right now, it's a little bit shaky, and I think Tierney's got one foot out the door. Arteta just doesn't seem to want his style of fullback in his team.
Right.
On that left side, he's got, I think, and it makes sense. If you got Martinelli, you don't need a touchline fullback that's going to run up and down the line. He's got that. You need somebody who can support him and create pockets of space to let him run up to the byline and cut it back. So it'll be interesting. Zinchenko's back in training, so if he's fit, then we're fine. But
is he going to play? Because he's in my team too.
He's back in full training. He's back in full training, so he is. I think they'll make a decision on Friday after training. If he plays, then it's fine. You just slot in Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Ramsdale, And then you got your midfield and your attack, and you're good to go. But that, if not, then it starts getting a little wonky. Do you play Gabriel at left back? Do you play Kiwi over there? Do you play Tomiyasu there? There's just, and then each of those offer a different perspective. But at the end of the day, I think Arsenal just have too much. They'll win it, but it'll be a nervy game for large parts unless they can get an early goal and kind of quiet that place. Because I could see Palace growing into it if it stays close for a long time.
I have Arsenal as well. Real quick, I'll close. I'm curious. I mean, Timber was going to be a huge part of this season. You've got, Champions League. You've got the cups. How to whatever extent Arsenal will care about Carabao and FA Cup later on. But do they go out and replace Timber?
I think it all depends on outgoings. So right now they've got too many players, just straight up that are first team players. So if they can move a few of them, Balogun, and get a good fee there, Tierney get 20 to 30 million there, find a loan for Lukanga. It looks like Nuno Tavares, which ironically is a left back, is going to go to West Ham, or Forest are coming in with a bid for about 12 million.
Yeah.
So if they can get those out the door, I could totally see them going back in for one more defender and a right-sided attacker. Kudus from Ajax is a name that keeps getting mooted as an attacking player. And then Simikan as the defender who they looked at earlier in the window. I could see them going back in for him later in the window. But I think it kind of depends. This week is going to be focused really on getting people out the door. And then once they've got that squad cleaned up and at a right size, I could see them adding a player.
Did also, actually, play center back?
Right back.
He played right back. So okay.
Yeah, and basically what they had him do was invert into midfield like Zinchenko would from the other side.
Like Trent does for Liverpool.
Yeah, exactly. So he would go in there and support, and it would allow Rice some freedom to push up and kind of take that left half space. And then Havertz could go even further up. So it worked really well in the first half. They looked really, really solid. Got 2 goals. We're kind of carrying the play. So we did some of that at the end of last year, just to see what that would look like. And Timber was brought in to do that roll from the right and invert in, and he did it well on the left. So we'll see what happens. I think, but at the end of the day, it comes down to getting players out the door. Once we get them out the door and we've got a squad that's a manageable size, then I think we'll be good to go. But right now, we can't even register all our players. We've got players that we won't be able to register just because there's
too many players, man. Arsenal is too good. That's why I picked them to finish ahead of City and win the league. I appreciate you, Jay, joining us from Palace. You're there early.
Yeah.
Are you going to tailgate? What are you going to do?
Yeah. Well, they have a 5-hour tailgating rule, so I won't be able to get started until Monday morning.
All right, man. Let's do this again next week. Thanks.
All right. Have a good one.
Peace.